Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for coming back and spending this time with us. We got the whole team here. Well, actually, not the whole team, because Max isn't here today. Max will be later on the week. More about that in a second. But hey, Jonas, Elly, Darren, and Matt, how are you all doing? Please answer all at once.
Hello.
We're good.
Good.
Fine.
Very good.
Everything fine here.
Excellent. And greetings to our usual crowd, all the early testers. It's all looking great. Hello to a very post-festive Newcastle. Oh, and you've got your t-shirt. Excellent. Oh, that's really good news. Nice. In fact, we'll make sure to give out that t-shirt link as usual as part of the session, because we got the code back, so you can get a free t-shirt too.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. You might need to upgrade me. I'm only a panelist.
You're never only a panelist, Matt.
Just a
I'm just a panelist. I can't answer anybody's questions. I'm sorry.
Good comment from Jack on not all systems have the chat window, so we'll try and put these links in answers to questions in the Q&A. The chat panel, depending on the operating system you've got, sometimes it comes up and sometimes it doesn't, so we'll make sure that happens. But all the links that we talk about are also included in the email that we send out to you automatically, and also on the website. Thank you, Kent. It's all looking and sounding great. This is good news. So welcome back to this second of our Monday series. And if you don't know about the other series, just in case also you want to look at some of the future ones that we're doing, if you go onto the Maxon site and you go under news and you go to events, that's where these things are currently published. And this is the series here, Demystifying Post-Production, and today we'll be looking into all sorts of interesting things with the Motion Builder and how you can do Mograph stuff with it. But you may have noticed a shiny new little graphic on the main site here called Ask the Trainer. So we've decided, in a rush of blood to the head, that would be a good idea just to open up all our questions every other Thursday, or the second and the fourth Thursdays of the month, and to just let you ask questions and we'll just ask them live. So whatever you got questions across the whole of the Maxon range of tools, whether that's Cinema or Redshift or all the various Red Giant suites, our conceit is that we're going to give you a creative answer for it. And in some cases, we will be able to do that. So we'll be delighted for you to come along. And it's good to be able to just find out how you're using the tools and what you need to know, and it helps point us in the right direction for further sessions like this. So please feel free to attend, and it's free, of course. Just sign up on that link. Also, we are recording this session. You'll be delighted to hear, and surprised, I know. So that if you go to the Maxon Training Team channel on YouTube, then you'll see all the sessions that we ran all last year as well, including last week's Volume Builder workflows, where Matt was showing us all sorts of fancy things that you can do with sculpting as well with Volume Builder, and 3D printing for that matter. And you can ask questions on the comments there as well. We've been having a dialogue with a few people about some technical settings on several of these videos. And if you'd like to test your knowledge on Cinema or all the Red Giant suites, you can also go to the Maxon site. If you go on to Learn and go down to Certification, then there's a free 1-hour knowledge test. So you can find out from a whole wide variety of different topics. That these aren't just our choice on topics. Our favorite knowledge expert, Thanasis, interviewed many different studios, and this is an interesting cross-reference of topics, so that if you wanted to have a wide knowledge of cinema, these are things that would be really useful for you to know. And there's a link to the topic lists on this page as well. So have a go at doing the test, and you can take it as many times as you like. And also we have on the Red Giant site, if you go to the volume program section, then you can do the same thing with the Red Giant suites, and you can look at those assessments too. And they're all free, and they're all just a 1-hour knowledge test, if you like. Fantastic, great. So, as they say, enough of my yakking. Let's get on with some Volume Builder fun. So who's up first? Who am I handing over to?
That'd be me, please.
You. Great.
Elly.
What are you going to be showing us, Elly?
So we can look at some like volume meshing using the random. I muted myself accidentally. Yeah, so we're going to look at like volume meshing using the random field and kind of like use some noises there. Let me just accept. Did you send that over?
I did. You're now marked as presenter.
Ooh.
We're waiting to view Ellie's screen, and we can only see Simon currently.
Oh, really? Oh, hooray. How lovely for you.
Ah, 1 second.
So you're going to have to do Cinema 4D through the medium of interpretive dance whilst Ellie talks you through it.
I can mime it, for sure, definitely.
Oh, what a pain. Hang on. I'm going to have to quit and come back. Give me 2 seconds.
Okay.
New machine, system preferences.
Excellent.
All right,
Okay,
one sec.
let's set me back as presenter on this. Okay.
We have a question already, which I think I can answer, from Jason. So does anyone know if the artifacts you see from the voxels in the volume tool, do these artifacts 3D print or are they smooth? It really depends on how deep the artifacts are on the surface of the object, to be perfectly honest. So any variance in the movement of the polygons and stuff will print, but it depends on, again, what type of printer and how well it's sort of set up to interpret, you know, like minute variances in the surface of things. So really it will, our standard answer, it will depend. And it depends on several things. Yes, yeah, there it is. Thanks, Ken.
Yes, exactly. A good comment from Rob. How come Simon always manages to bring in some sort of a problem? It always works really well. Yes, exactly. And somebody's asked about the certification program. Jada has asked, what are the benefits of becoming a certified trainer? And if you're running courses for an approved certification center or running certified courses for Cinema 4D, then you need to be a certified trainer. So that's one benefit. But one other benefit is that you can also certify end users. So you can always talk to us a bit more about that if you'd like to do that. Training@maxon.net will come through to us, and then you can ask us further deep questions about that too.
Perfect. I think Elly is back.
I am.
Right.
Nice.
What a good start.
Let's make you a presenter again, Elly. Here we go.
Cool. Right, sorry about that. Can everyone see my screen?
Not yet.
Nope.
Currently.
Oh God. It's showing as showing my screen.
Oh, good. Hooray.
Wow.
We see the title. We can see the window. It's wanting to do it. So waiting to view as the screen. Why don't we, I could take this over again and then send it back to you again. How about that?
Yeah.
Okay. This is fun. Right. Okay. So let's try again. You're in here twice though, Elly. So I wonder if that had a problem to do with it. I think when you log back in, it gave you another instance of you. Here we go. Let's send it to you again.
Okay. I take the pause as a no.
It's a very silent pause, yes.
Okay, why don't, Jonas, do you want to go first and I will quit and try and come out properly?
I can, yeah.
Yeah?
Okay,
Definitely. Let's do that.
Let's make you presenter, yes.
All right. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Great. Welcome everybody again. And yeah, today we want to show you how you can use the volume builder and the whole volume workflow to create some cool motion graphics. And the first thing I wanted to start with is how you can create a water setup like this one here. And we are pretty much aware that there are many tools out there who are specialized, or which are specialized in creating fluids and stuff like that. But using the volume builder, there is a cheap way where you don't need any third-party software, and you can, yeah, create simple fluid or water-like effects with it, like this one. And after that, I'm going to show how I created this guy here. This is a viewport rendering, by the way. And the only difference when it comes to the technique is that all of the spheres create like a hole. There's no intersection in this whole thing. And I want to show you how you can like blow up the rim of that and how to smooth it. So yeah, let's just get started. I will start from scratch, and I just want to use a simple particle emitter, and I rotate it so that it's pointing upwards, and I'm also going to move it a little bit to the side. And before we hit play, let's adjust some other things like the birth rate, the speed, and the speed variation, so that we have something like this. And the next thing I want to do is I want to go to the simulate menu and make this a little bit more interesting. And in order to do that, I'm going to use some forces. And the first one is the rotation force. I'm again going to rotate this guy upwards, and this will create like a twirl and yeah, a rotation. And the second one is some turbulence, and I'm going to set this to a strength of, let's say, 40, and the scale to something like so. So we want to fake some fluids here, and we need to find a scale that is capable of doing that. I think this might be pretty cool. All right, so what we need to do is to throw that whole thing into a volume builder. I can get rid of this window here, and I create a volume builder, and I make the emitter a child of the volume builder, and then I get this. Now, if I select the volume builder, you can see that the volume type is signed distance field. That's okay. The voxel size is, well, a little bit big. I want to bring this down to, let's say, 3. And now you can see that every single particle is now a blob, a sphere. And we can do cool stuff with that. Maybe first, let me also create a volume measure. And with the volume builder selected, I just have to hold down Alt and create the measure. And this way, it will automatically be created as a parent of the volume builder. And I select the volume builder, and I select the emitter inside of the volume builder. And now I can play with the radius a bit. Okay, so that's the basic setup of the whole thing. Now you can clearly see that this doesn't look at all like water or something, because it's, well, too there are too many spheres. It's just too, well, it does not look like water. So how can I go from here to something that is looking a little bit more like a fluid? Well, there is actually a simple solution for that. First of all, you have to blow everything up so that every blob is becoming bigger. You can do that either by using a dilate and erode filter. Then, well, either or, you know, these are the sentences you always should finish with the or in the end. So the other way would be just to bring up the radius of these little spheres here. So the whole workflow is making something bigger, then smoothing it, and then making it smaller again. So because it is a little bit cheaper when it comes to calculation, I'm gonna change the radius here. Let's say 8. Then I've got this. Then I'm gonna smooth it with an Sdf Smooth filter. It has to be on top here, and I think I'm gonna reduce the voxel distance so it's looking like this, and you can see we're getting there. And now I'm going to create and dilate and erode again, and this time it is important that the offset is negative, and let's set it to -3 or something. And this is not too bad. I mean, there's a lot of room for improvement here, but you can see that with a few clicks and with native Cinema 4D functionality, you can create effects like that. And if you create like a, let's say a bottle product shot or a can product shot, you just have to add like a water material and render it. So that's actually just a matter of seconds. Actually, I can do that. Let's just create a Redshift material, and let's set the Redshift material to water. And then I'm also going to create a dome light with an HDR. Let's search for an HDR in the content browser. And let's just apply this one. And that's already the full setup. So we can hit render. In the render view, of course, we have to assign the material. You should never forget that. And here we go. That's our water. You can see once the water material is on there, it's looking pretty good. And it's, as I said, a very cheap way to create water, but for some situations, this is definitely enough. All right, let's go to the other one, and I want to show that to you again. It was this one here. And this is basically a Mograph setup. So let me create a spline and some spheres in a new scene. Here we go. We create a circle spline. We check ellipse and make it a little bit wider, like so. I'm also going to increase the number of intermediate points. And then I'm going to create a twist deformer from up here. And I'm going to hold down Shift as I create it. So it's going to be a child immediately. As you know, deformers have to be children of the objects they deform. At least that's one way of applying a deformer. Then I set the alignment to X, fit to parent, and then I can adjust the angle to be 180, and that's the result. So we've got a loop like this, and now I'm going to create some spheres. Let's bring down the radius like so, and let's also bring up the segments. And then I'm going to clone these spheres onto an object, and this object is going to be the circle. Now, because of execution orders here, I place the cloner under the circle. So the circle and the circle deformation will be executed first, and after that, the cloning onto the whole thing. And I'm gonna bring up the count, let's say to 300. So I have something like this. So that's pretty cool. I want to add a random effector as well to randomize the whole thing. So let's add this. And now we see that we have something like that. If we hit play now, nothing happens. So let's extend the time here a little bit, and let's also animate those spheres along the spline. And I simply do that with the offset parameter here inside of the cloner. And then I go to frame 200, set the offset to be 100%, set another keyframe, right click the parameter because I want this to be a linear animation. I go up to animation, show F-curve, and in here I set this whole thing to be linear. You can see right now there is some ease in and ease out. I set it to linear simply by pushing this button. Now the line is linear and I can hit play. And you can see, wow, now it's all following that spline. It's already looking kind of cool. One problem we have, if you have a look at this area here, is that there is some flipping, and we can get rid of this. This is coming from the random effector. Well, basically from the random effector in combination with the alignment of the spheres. Because sometimes when a clone reaches the end of the spline, it's not aligned the same way as in the beginning anymore. And this is exactly what's happening here. So here you can see some of the spheres going away and popping up in another place. And if we select the random effector and go to parameter, there is a parameter called transform space, and it's set to node by default. Node means the clone, so it's using the transform space of the clone. If the clone is rotated by 180 degrees in the banking, you won't notice it until it flips. So let's set this to effector. Now it's using the transform space of the effector. And if I hit play, you can see that there is no flipping anymore here. So that's pretty cool. The next thing I want to do is I want to go to the Effector tab and adjust the random mode to, let's say, noise. This will create something like this. Also pretty cool. Not what we want, but cool. And I bring down the animation speed, and I'm going to bring up the noise scale here. And then I check indexed. And indexed means that every single clone will get its own randomness, its own noise pattern. Right now, you can see that they are all following the same noise pattern. If I check indexed, it's chaotic again, but it's, well, because everything is following its own random pattern. So what we have here now is, well, a pretty organic flow of spheres. And we can make this a little bit more organic, of course. First of all, I want to bring up the position randomness to 150 on all of the axes. And I also want to randomize the scale here. Let's use something like 0.7, something like that. Yeah, that's looking kind of nice. Okay, and now I'm going to throw the whole thing into a volume builder. Again, I hold Alt, then I create the volume builder, and then I hold Alt again and create the volume measure. This way, I'm immediately creating the hierarchy. And now you can see, okay, this is looking more organic again. Let's select the volume builder and bring down the voxel size, this time to 5 centimeters. And I'm also, again, well, we don't have to blow it up. It's blown up enough. I just want to smooth it. And now I'm gonna add another dilate and erode. Make it -10 maybe. Yeah, that's looking kind of nice. Maybe 15 or maybe even -20. Yeah, I think 15 was better. Okay. And now we have this stream of stuff. Okay, now let's add a second layer of spheres, and we want to cut them out of this whole thing. So let's just create a copy of the cloner here. And I also want to go to the Object tab, and in here, I'm going to bring down the count to, let's say, 7, and I'm going to bring up the sphere size. Okay, so this is pretty good. Happy with that. And now I want to, well, first of all, create like a lip around that whole thing. Then I want to subtract all of these spheres, and then in the end I want to smooth the area around these spheres. So how can I do that? I select the volume builder, and first of all I want to, as I said, I want to create that lip here. So I want to dilate this whole area around the sphere, but only the area around the sphere. However, we need a dilate and erode. And now you can see that everything is blown up, and we can increase the effect here. Let's bring it up to 30 to make it really extreme and visible. And now I want to restrict that whole effect to this area here. And we can do that by using fields. So here's the field list. And one thing I would usually do is I would just drag and drop the cloner in here and use it as a point object in order to create those slips here. But as you can see, this doesn't work. And I played around with this a little bit, and in the end, the solution was, as with many Mograph setups, which are failing, you have to create a connect object first, because the connect object internally turns this whole Mograph setup more or less into a polygon object. So that's the easiest explanation for that. So let's create the connect object. I hold down Alt, and this will keep everything still procedural. It just creates that extra layer that combines everything, so to speak. All right, and now in the volume builder, I can use the connect as the mask for the dilate and erode. And now you can see that it's working. So if I switch this on and off, you can see that there is a lip around these spheres, but the other areas are the same or not dilated or eroded. Okay, the next thing I want to do, I want to subtract the spheres from that bigger shape. So let's throw in the cloner here as well. And that's a cool thing. We didn't show that before, but you cannot only make objects a child of the volume builder in order to edit. You can also just drag and drop them inside. You can see the input type here on the very right of the list. The cloner, which is this cloner here, is a child, and the other cloner, which is this one here, has been linked to the volume builder. Okay, and now we subtract the whole thing. This will create that, and let me also make this invisible so we can see that the sphere is still there, but you can see that it's not intersecting with the geometry here anymore. Okay, and the last thing I want to do here is I want to create an Sdf Smooth on top of the whole thing. And as you can see, again, everything has been smoothed, but I also want to restrict it to the same area as the dilate and erode. So I drag and drop the connect into the fields list here inside of the filter. With every filter, you have the filter tab and the fields tab. And now you can see that we have the smoothing going on in this area here. And the rest is just creating materials, fine-tuning the animation. And yeah, that's it. That's the setup. Elly, did you already manage to make it work? Actually, we don't know until we try, right?
Yes, we don't know. I'm hoping
Shall we try it again? And then
yeah.
we will come back to my stuff and again. Okay, let's try it. I make you a moderator.
Fingers crossed.
Or before I do so, I canceled this. Sorry. Are there any questions on this?
Yeah, one question was, let me scroll up so I can read it, was about when you were doing the water, was adding foam. Let's see, where is that question?
Is it possible to add foam using the volume builder as well, like the ocean foam or foam on a beer to the outside of the water of this?
That's a good question. I would say
that would probably be
yes
more.
and no. You can, with the volume measure, you have the option to create a curvature map, which will create, well, a vertex map. And you can set this to convex parts of the geometry or concave parts of the geometry. This could be used in order to create a mask but other than that, I don't think so.
No, I don't think you could add it to the outside. You'd need some form of texture to do it. Kent would like to see the mesh.
Sure. Hello? The shortcut doesn't work.
Calculating volume builder. There we go. That's not too bad.
Yeah, right now it's not too bad. Of course, if I would use this in a production scenario, I would make the mesh a little bit denser. But yeah, it's working.
Brian asked a question as well. Could you have not used an instance of the first cloner to have done the second one so that you could parametrically change it later on?
So the question is an instance of the first cloner to create those spheres here, basically.
Yeah.
Well, in theory, yes, but that would lead to another effect. I just wanted a few spheres inside of this, so I just cloned the initial cloner, or created a copy of the initial cloner. So I had the cloning along the spline already set up, and the speed of the offset already set up, and I just had to reduce the count of spheres to achieve that effect. Otherwise, it would just have taken longer. But cool. Instancing it wouldn't be possible if you want to change the count of spheres, and that's what I wanted.
Cool. Thank you very much.
All right. In that case, Elly, are you ready?
Shall we try it again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's try it again. So here you go.
Moment of truth.
Waiting to view Elly's screen.
Oh no.
Elly, are you using Chrome by any chance?
No.
Is it Safari?
Yeah.
Because a couple of my problems I had for sharing a screen was I wasn't able to share with Chrome for some reason in Big Sur. Safari didn't have a problem with GoToWebinar, but Chrome did. Let's list you as the presenter.
Do you want to quickly share your screen with me on Teams very fast, and we'll see if I can see what's going on?
Yeah.
Shall I continue in the meantime?
The trouble is that we do kind of need this to be shared, don't we? That's the trouble, in order to get the pop-up. So it will take us a second.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you just want to share quickly? You can just do the screen.
Yeah, let me go on to Teams.
Okay, in the meantime, I'm going to try to answer some more questions, if any. So use curvature shader. Well, we don't have a curvature shader.
On Redshift.
Well, on Redshift we have, yeah. that's absolutely possible. If you want to stay with the Cinema 4D native renderers, then you can use the Vertex Map Shader to use the weighting information of the vertex map for rendering in the shader.
There is that that curvature map feature, but you pointed that out. Is that correct, Jonas?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, in the meantime, I'm gonna grab the screen back in order to show you the curvature shader. So in Redshift, well, let's just create a Redshift material. And if you type in curvature here, so I've got Redshift installed. And if you type in curvature, that's what you would do. And this is going to give you the curvature information. But the curvature, in the curvature shader, it's using the whole curvature of the object. So as far as I know, there is no distinction between concave and convex parts of the mesh. Is that right, Darren?
I'm sorry, I was typing a message.
Yeah, in the curvature shader in Redshift, that's an overall curvature shader. So there is no distinction between convex parts and concave parts of the mesh.
Is that right? Can you go to the general properties? Because I thought there were a couple of different options in there.
Where?
In the general tab? Yeah.
Ah, yeah. Oh, here we go. Yeah.
So there is a distinction between concave and convex.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
This is a good practice run for Thursday when we do Q&A.
Yeah. Well, shall I just continue, or how do you want?
Let's give Elly a few more minutes to see if she can work with Matt to fix that problem.
Okay, so there is another thing I wanted to show you, which is this little Lego explosion. So what we have here is an explosion, and the explosion shape and also the color data is coming from a volume file, like a Vdb file. And I'm using this to mask a Mograph setup. And yeah, I want to show you how I did this. So let's jump into my Lego start scene. And what you see here is just a single Lego brick. And if we render this guy using Redshift, you can see that there's also some type on top of it that's just in the bump channel. And yeah, I want to create an explosion out of that. So what I already did in here in this scene is I cloned it. So this is my cloner. And yeah, it's set to grid array mode to create this block of clones. And the instance mode is set to render instance. That's important in order to render it with Redshift later. We can also set it to multi-instance. This would make it possible to see the color channel, the color changes in the viewport, but you cannot render them in Redshift. So I just kept that here in render instance mode. And the count is set to 41 by 41 by 41, and the reason it's an odd number is simply because then in the end it matches the top parts here, the cylinders on the ground plane. All right, so that's the Mograph setup here. The other thing that I want to do is I want to create or import a volume, and this is not everything you can do with volumes inside of Cinema 4D. We have a dedicated volume menu, and here you can see that there is also a volume loader. And if I use the volume loader, it asks me to have a look at my hard drive if there's like a VDB file or VDB sequence, and I have a Fireball VDB sequence here. So I open this, and now you can see that there is something going on here, but it's really small. So before we jump into the volume grids here, I just want to bring up the scale. I just set it to 10. And now we have those 3 volume grids in here, and I will show them to you one after the other. So this is a temperature one. It's looking like this, and you can see that it's brighter in the beginning and then becoming darker because it's, well, just not as hot anymore. Then there is a specific or dedicated heat, and this would be used in order to create luminance when you really want to render this as, well, a smoke. Oh, if you want to render this as smoke and fire. But this is something we want to cover in the last session in January. And then there is the density map. This is also something you would use in the if you want to render the smoke and fire here. Okay, I think the most interesting shape here comes with the heat grid. So like this. Yeah, that's pretty cool. You can see there are brighter areas and darker areas, and these areas define a weight. So this means that the black dots, the black voxels here, they have a heat of 0%, and the white ones have a heat of 100%. So we are already working with a volume that has stored some weights in it. And yeah, actually, Elly wanted to explain this to you, but maybe let's create a volume builder here. There are multiple types of volumes here, or multiple volume types, and the default one is signed distance field. And signed distance fields are good for modeling because whatever you input here, the voxel grid will store the distance from a voxel to the nearest point on the surface you input here. A fog volume is something different. This is going to store a weight. So in every single voxel, there is a value stored between 0 and 1, or 0 and 100%. And then there's also vector volumes, but we're going to cover vector volumes next Monday. Okay, so just that you know that there is a distinction between 3 volume types. And when you load a volume like this one here, it's at least good to know that this is a fog volume. All right.
I'd also like to point out real quick that you can also use the fog volumes in modeling. And yeah, it is calculated a little faster, but like you said, Jonas, you do have that control over the interior exterior with the oh, I forgot the name, but the other one.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So next question: how can we connect or combine the cloner and the volume loader here? And the answer is simple. We just have to create an effector, and I'm going to use a plane effector for that. like so. And in the plane effector, I'm going to go to the parameter tab and disable position. And instead, I also want to disable color, and I just want to enable visibility. And now in the fall off tab, I want to drag and drop in this volume loader. And bam, here you see that we are creating these Lego bricks only in those positions where we have something brighter than 50% gray, or a value of more than 50% or more. And now let's shape this a little bit. And in order to shape it a little bit, we have to enable the remapping, because what I want to change here is I want to have more of these Lego bricks. So let's enable the remapping, and whenever we get to the point where we have more than 50% here, a brick will be visible. So in this case, let's play with the inner offset, and you can see that more and more bricks are coming. And maybe let's do this, and let's scrub through the timeline. Yeah, that's looking pretty cool. All right, so that's the first effector. It's the plane effector for the visibility. And with the cloner selected, I'm going to create a second one, a second plane effector. And I'm going to use this for the color. So in the parameters tab, I uncheck position, and the color mode is set to fields color. Now, in the fall off tab, again, I'm going to use the volume loader here. And now let's get rid of the material so we can see what's happening. And in this case, as I told you earlier, we also have to set this whole thing to multi-instance. Now you can see that we have random colorization here, and we want to control the color and only the color. That's why I'm going to check off the values here in the fields list, and I'm going to enable remapping, and then I'm also going to adjust the color remap. And I'm going to set this from color to gradient. And now you can see that we have a gradient here. One thing I always do, because we're dealing with values here, I'm going to right click here into the gradient, and then I adjust the interpolation of all knots to be linear. Okay, and that's looking pretty cool. Maybe we can play with the black value a little bit, and maybe also with the white value. But I think it's okay. Good. If you want to use this color in the rendering later, first of all, if you want to use it in Redshift, you have to switch back to render instance or instance, but this way you won't see it in the viewport anymore. And well, if you want to use it in a standard or physical material, you can just create the Mograph color shader. This is where you can read this color. And if you want to use it in Redshift, it's a little bit different, but let's do this now. I'm gonna reassign the material to the brick, and let's also bring up the Redshift render view, and let's hit render. And I'm gonna double click the material to bring it up. Like so. So there are a few nodes in there already, but these are creating the bump for the type on top of the cylinders here, the C4D type. And I use the triplanar node to do this. Okay, right now you see that all of the bricks are yellow, and this is because yellow is the color here in the diffuse. But we want to use another color. We want to use the Mograph color. And in order to read the Mograph color, we need a node which is called color user data. So I search for user, and I'm going to create the color user data node. And now I'm going to connect it to the diffuse color, and we have to set it up a little bit. Here in the attributes manager, you can see that the default color is black. That's why everything turned black. And then there is an attribute name here. And if you know the attribute name, you can just type it, but you can also use the presets. And then there's a Mograph section, and in here, color. And now you can see that we are getting back the colorization of the bricks, and we can simply search for a ramp node, which is similar to a gradient, and just add it here. And now in the presets of the gradient, just use a heat preset, for example, and there you go. This is how you can colorize the whole thing. Elly, would you be ready for another try?
What we're going to do some troubleshooting behind the scenes, and actually it fits in nicely to next week because Elly was going to show some things and then expand upon them next week. So we're going to do a switch around, and Elly's going to catch up with that next. But there are a couple of questions I noticed about creating that volume file, the .vdb file. Just wondered if you could just comment about that quickly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know where this volume file has been created. There are a bunch of things where you can create volume files. I think even Xparticles is capable of doing that. But of course, also Houdini or any other simulation software. There are a bunch of ready to be used volumes, for example, on TurboSquid, where you can just buy them. And inside of Cinema 4D, you can also create those Vdb sequences. So what you would do is, just let me get rid of this now. What you can do, if you have a volume builder in here, you can just go to File, Export Selected Object As, and then down here you have Vdb. And you can do that with like a single file or with a sequence. So that would be the way how you create a Vdb file or sequence out of Cinema 4D.
Nice. And also reacting to a question from Kimo, if you were going back to previous versions, how far back could you go and still import a volume builder file and do this particular process?
R20.
Well, Kimo, you were right in that case because you were suggesting R20.
Yeah, so R20 was the release where we introduced the volume workflow. And yeah, it also was the one where we integrated the volume loader.
Fantastic. And Noseman of Thanasis has added a link. You should see that in the questions area now, that where you can download some free VDBs or free VDB animations.
Oh, that's
thanks for that. That's really cool.
Thanks.
And just a couple more questions, if you can see them, Jonas, just before we wrap up in a few minutes. Could you color the Lego using the heat value from the VDB file? This is from Anders.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. So what I'm doing here, I have the volume loader here, and I'm using the heat in order to create the shape as well as the colorization. In here, in the plane effector, which is creating the color. Let me get rid of this one. We don't need it for now. I also referenced the volume loader here to create some sort of fall off. But I'm using this for the color, and I'm creating the black to white gradient, which I then read using the color user data node in Redshift. ramp it, or remap it, so that in the end, if I enable Redshift again, will lead to this. We can also do other stuff here, like for example, creating a setup that will show all of the bright bricks transparent. We can even, because we're having a fall off in here, we can just set the interpolation of all knots to step here, and this way we are going to create like just 5 colors, like so. Maybe let me increase the brightness a little bit, or maybe that's even too late in the timeline. Maybe let me go a little bit more to the beginning here, because now there's a lot of white now. So let me bring this back a little bit. So what we can do is, for example, enable refraction or transparency. So let's set the weight here to 1. And in this case, we need the color data here in order to drive the refraction color. And I'm going to do that, refraction transmission, color. And here we go. Now everything is transparent. If I just want, as I said, just the bright ones to be transparent, I can just create a copy of this ramp, for example, pipe the color user data into the alt input. And in here, in this ramp, I'm gonna get rid of a few knots in here and just leave this one, for example, set it to white, or maybe let's say to 80% gray, and just link this into the refraction weight. So everything that is yellow and white will now be transparent, and the orange bricks, we go closer, we come closer here, the orange bricks are not transparent.
Nice. A couple of last quick questions. Carlos is wondering about your setup, Jonas, and Keen Eye has spotted the fact that you're using an external GPU. So would you mind just sharing the specs on those?
Oh yeah, that's true. So my specs here are I'm using a MacBook Pro. So here we go. Well, it's the German interface, but I think you're getting the point. That's my machine. That's the internal graphics card, which is not capable of running Redshift because it's not Navi or Vega based. But if I go to the Redshift preferences, which is the Redshift section in the Cinema 4D preferences, you can see that I'm using an AMD Radeon Pro W5700, which is a Navi-based card, and well, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's not the fastest. It's comparable with a 1080, GeForce 1080. I think it's even a little faster, but I don't know what the how slow it's becoming because of like being an external GPU.
But you didn't have to set this up manually, did you? Redshift automatically picked it up because it was part of the system.
Yeah, exactly. Everything I had to do manually is plug the cable into the MacBook.
Yes, the OS can't do that for you yet. But yeah. you have to have of Big Sur, of course. You have to have a MacBook Pro which has Thunderbolt 3, which is the ones that have been available for the last couple of years with USB ports on them.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. So, and oh, sorry, go
on. Yeah, I just wanted to say, usually I just plug it in and I wait for 10 seconds because I noticed that if I plug it in and immediately start Cinema 4D, it won't see the graphics card. But if you wait, if you give it like a few seconds, it's gonna detect it automatically, and you can just continue using Redshift.
I've got a similar setup for my MacBook Pro as well, and I've noticed that you can disable the GPU for the external GPU in the operating software, and you can put it as an icon inside the menu bar, but not all programs like it, so it's better to let the restart refresh, even though you can do a hot turn off and on if you like. And in answer to Kimo, does Redshift need Nvidia? Well, no, because that's exactly what we've just been talking about. Jonas is using an AMD card for it.
Yeah, what you have to know though is that Redshift has been a CUDA-based renderer like for, well, since the beginning, and we just recently
Have we lost Jonas? Simon, can you hear me?
I think we have. This has been the problem day, hasn't it?
At least it's not just me then that's experiencing problems.
Tell you what, I'm going to make me presenter and switch my machine on, show this window. Here we are.
They said
like
Nvidia cut off Jonas.
Too much.
Yeah.
So I think to carry on with what he was saying, yes, it is possible. You know, Redshift is a CUDA-based GPU and is a CUDA-based renderer, and therefore it needs Nvidia graphics cards in PCs. They're still currently working on the Metal version, and the Metal version works only on Macs on AMD cards. So depending on whether or not you are Mac or PC will once again depend on which of the cards that you need. So if you're on a PC, you need an Nvidia. If you are on a Mac, if you are on an old Mac 10, 13 or before, it will work on an internal Nvidia card. If you are using a modern Mac, you need Big Sur, and it will work on a Metal with AMD.
Yeah, you need to have the Navi or the Vega graphics cards for it to work on the new Big Sur. If that helps.
Great stuff. So one last thing just to wrap up. If you'd like to hear more of these questions and answers like we were just doing at the end there, please join us again on Thursday. That was a great segue, wasn't it?
That was wonderful.
Yes, exactly.
Am I back now?
He's back.
We can hear you again, Jonas.
Yeah, funny thing. Until now, I was talking.
See, that's what we do in our weekly meetings with you anyway. Cool. So yes, please tune in on Thursday. Go to Maxon under news and maxon.net, I should say, under news and events, and then you can sign up for these Ask the Trainer sessions. We run them every second and fourth Thursday of the month, so that we're planning to be here this Thursday. So please come and join us, and we'll record that as well. But you'll only get your questions answered if you're there. So that's another incentive to turn up.
Or if I'm here.
Oh, well, or if Jonas is here, absolutely, yes, exactly. Jonas will answer your questions whether his mic is on or not.
That's so sad, because you actually missed the best part of the whole hour.
Yes, if a tree falls in the forest, is Jonas still explaining the answer to the question?
Yeah.
Excellent. Cool. And one last quick thing that I didn't show earlier on with the actual page. If you want to have a free t-shirt from us in several styles and several colors, you can go to this website, the merch store, and that link not only will be in the follow-up email, but if you go to the training channel, Maxon Training Team, under our recordings, here's last week's one, then we also list this link and the coupon code. So it's Maxon merch store at Shopify, and if you put the coupon code demystifying in, then you get a free t-shirt. So and that's on us, because we're kind of wanting to replicate in some respects what we were doing when we saw you in person, which was to hand out t-shirts and say hi and find out all sorts of ways that you're using the software. So we really missed that, and this doesn't replace it, of course, but we just wanted to make a mechanism where we could do that. And I think the shipping depends on where you live, but it's only $3 or $4 or €3 or €4 depending on where it is. Fantastic. So apologies if we missed any of your questions. I noticed Susan had one about rendering in the viewer and so on. Please turn up again on Thursday, Susan, and we'll see if we can dive into that, if there are any particular problems with that. Also, if you want to send us a question, even if it's a file, please let us know. You can send it to training@maxon.net. Especially useful if that is something slightly more complex, and we can have a look at it and troubleshoot perhaps what's going on in that particular file. Again, we can't guarantee doing your entire workflow for you when you finish your job, but we'll make our best efforts to kind of solve any pitfalls or any problems you've got in that particular workflow. So what have I missed out, team? What have I forgotten to say? I think that's it. Oh yes, it's recorded. Cool. All right. And just a brief one. What are you planning to do next week, Elly, with the session that you're going to concertina in with what we were doing today?
Okay, so I'm going to go through like volume meshing using the random field and different C4D noises, and also going to look at using field force with particles in the volume builder to create kind of organic growths, and maybe a bit of thinking particles because someone did suggest it early in the questions. So I thought to make up for today, I'll drop that in there.
So it's interactive, absolutely. I know we sometimes plan for troubleshooting, not quite to this extent, but we'll catch up next week. Fantastic. Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate your time and for staying with us. And we'll see you hopefully on Thursday, but if not, on Monday. All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks
Bye.
for watching.